I'm Audrey Foster with Nebraska Extension in Custer County. So for today's activity, we're going to be making cloth Quikrete planners. This process is a little bit involved and you may need a parent's help, but I am loving the end result. The basic process for this includes taking an old towel and soaking it in Quikrete. After it's been soaked in Quikrete, you drape it over a bucket that's placed upon a post or something that keeps the ends from touching the ground. And after that, you get to add more layers of cement just to make sure that it's nice and strong. Happy working! So to prep our towels, what we're gonna do first is we're just gonna cut off the edges. You can use whatever size of towel you want for this. These were just ones that we had that were worn out and were possible to be made into this project. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut off the edges. And you can also make these whatever shape you want. If you want to do square or rectangle, it's up to you. You can try both too and see which one you like better. I'm going to make mine a square today with this one. Okay. Then for my second towel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this one into a rectangle so that I can compare how the two turn out. So once again, I'm just going to cut off the edges. Now that our edges have all been removed, we're ready for our Quikrete. So as we begin working with our Quikrete, make sure that you have old clothes on and that you're wearing gloves for safety. And also just to make sure that you keep yourself clean. So to start out with mixing our Quikrete, I'm gonna use 5 cups, this is about a cup, from my 80-pound bag, and I'm gonna pour it into an ice cream bucket. And I'm just roughly measuring this. You can do the same and adjust it to the consistency you're after. After I've gotten about 5 cups of that, I'm going to take half a cup of water. Next, I'm just going to work as I have gloves on, you can also use some type of a stir stick for this. I'm just going to mix the Quikrete to the consistency I'm after. I think I need more water. What? So I'm at the point where it's at the consistency I'd want if I was using this for Quikrete, such as for putting out or installing a post or something like that, or working on my front porch or something. But for what we're using it for, we want it to be more soupy than this. So I'm gonna go ahead and add more water. So I added about another half cup of water. So at this point, I think it's looking pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and try it with one of our towels. I've never done this before, so I'm learning right along with you guys. So that's why I have multiple towels ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and try this with one of them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take one of my towels. There we go. And I'm just gonna dip it into the Quikrete and get it totally covered with it. Okay, as I can see here, it's kind of crumbling off the towel, and that's not quite what I'm going for. I want it to really cling to the towel, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit more water to achieve this effect. I'm adding about a 1/4 cup more water. The towel is also absorbing some of this water, so that's why we gotta make sure that we have plenty in there. So right now you see it's a little bit more soupy, so we're gonna try it again. So as you can see here, it's really starting to go into the towel, so we're getting closer. So midway through this, we thought of an idea, and we're gonna try wetting the towel before we put it into our Quikrete and see what happens there. So I'm just pouring a little bit of water onto this. Make sure that where you do this is parent approved and that you're okay to do it, because we don't want to get your parents' landscaping all covered with Quikrete or other substances they don't want covering it. So now that my towel is saturated with water, I'm going to go ahead and put it back into the Quikrete. I think it absorbed a lot of the water before I put it in. So we're gonna add a tiny bit more. So now that it's all nice and saturated, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and set up our planter. So for this one, I am going to be using my whipped cream container, but you can use whatever type of a plastic container you want. And I'm gonna be placing it on a stand. I've already gone ahead and put a couple random posts that I found in our yard into our ground. Once again, you're probably gonna need a parent's help with this step. You could also use pieces of PVC pipe or all sorts of different methods. This is just getting it so that our container is propped up above the ground. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and put our container onto the pole. Then we're gonna move our bucket with our Quikrete and our piece of cloth over to it so that we don't drip across our lawn. And then we are going to carefully arrange our piece of fabric onto the bucket or whatever container that you placed onto the pole. Make sure that you get it even and how you want it, because once it sets, you won't be able to move it. Once again, I'm gonna go ahead and wet this towel to make sure that it's very saturated beforehand. Then we're gonna dip it into our Quikrete and make sure it's covered. I think we're mostly to rocks. Can I add more powder? Okay. As you can see here, we're down to mostly rocks, so I'm gonna add a little bit more powder. So what I'm going to do with the rest of my Quikrete is I'm just going to dump it out in our gravel road. Make sure you dispose of this where your parents instruct you to. Do not just dump it down the sink, because all those rocks would not do anything good for your plumbing. So yes. You may want to check on your planters periodically. I'm not sure if you can see it the best in this light, but they'll start to get to be a lighter color when they're dry. It's still wetter up here, but it's drying at the bottom. This one's looking pretty good. Looks like I got a good coat. This one is looking like I got it maybe a little bit thin. We'll see what we can do about that. So I've been checking on my pots the past couple of days, and this one's reaching about the level of firmness I'm looking for, but isn't quite stiff enough. And this one is a ways from being the level of stiff that it needs to be to support a plant. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add layers of cement to the pots and see if that helps. So I've got my cement all ready to go. As you guys can notice, it's kind of dark out. In fact, it's very dark out. It's about 9:30 at night, and as I'm using cement, cement works better and becomes stronger the longer it takes to dry. So right now it's about 90 degrees out during the day here lately, so I'm trying to or I'm going to be covering these at night. So then as it's cooler at night, then it'll take longer for the cement to dry. So then hopefully it'll be stronger and will work better. So we're gonna try this and see how it goes. So once again, I'm working outside here in old clothes, and I'm working outside so I keep the mess outdoors and not in the house where my parents will get mad. So you guys might want to do the same. And I have my supplies here all ready to go. I have a thing of cement, and then I also have some water, and I have a container to mix it in. I also have a paintbrush to apply it in layers to my planters, and then also to stir it around with as I mix. So I've gone ahead and ground up quite a bit of cement there, and I've just used this metal chunk that I found in our cement that we typically use to grind up cement, and I'm just gonna add some water here. Remember, it's always easier to add more water later than to have to try and add more powder. And then I'm just gonna stir this up till it gets to be about the consistency I'm looking for. Then I will apply it in layers to my planters. So next up for my Quikrete cloth planter, as you can see, I've gone ahead and taken my container out of the center, and it's standing pretty well by itself. This is the one that I started out with a layer of Quikrete, and then I've gone ahead and painted one layer of cement on the outside, and it's feeling pretty good. But I'm gonna go ahead and paint a layer of cement on the inside just to ensure that it's very solid. So we're just gonna repeat the method that we used earlier, as far as we're gonna grind up some cement into our container, we're gonna add some water, and then we're gonna paint on a layer that's pretty thick. Here's the planter that I attempted with just layers of cement, and it's not very structured at all. It's pretty movie still, so I'm not sure that that was the best method. Maybe it was the towel I was using, or there could have been other factors. Maybe you guys can get this method to work, but it didn't necessarily work for me. Here's the one that I used just with Quikrete, and this was the second one I attempted, and as you can see, it's a little bit flexible too. What I think went wrong with that one is that I used it I made it using the same bucket that I used for my first one that did work out. What I think happened is that after I made the first one absorbed all the cement from the mix, and so therefore there was none left for this one. So all that this one has in it is salt and rocks, and that isn't able to make it be enough structured to make it be a viable pot. So my suggestion would be to for each pot, start out with a new batch of Quikrete. So after you mix up one pot, wash out your bucket and get new Quikrete. This will hopefully make it for having a success every time, because using remnants of Quikrete or just cement doesn't seem to really work. But you guys may be able to. Maybe it's just me and the technique I tried. Best of luck. Also, if you guys explore the internet, you can find that there's many different ways to use these, and in fact there may be better ways than what I've told you here today. So feel free to go out there and explore, and remember that your creativity is your only limit. Also, I mean, just thinking about this basic one here, I could sure spice it up with some paint or even whatever color plant I put inside it. So use your own creativity, and I look forward to seeing your results. So now that your Quikrete planters are finished, you guys get to wait for them to dry, and then after that, you can fill them with either your favorite flower or herb. I know that I'm excited to go plant mine. Thanks, Dad. That looks really cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'll just dump some. Oh, wait.
That won't work.
What?
That's what you're supposed to do?
No. I'm improvising. Actually, we shouldn't do that. Okay. One thing.